Hey guys, Grazer, the Autistic Gamer, and welcome to the start of my playthrough of Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown. Across the Unknown has been developed by the team over at GameXcite and can best be described as a survival strategy game. As the name suggests, it's set in the Star Trek Voyager universe and does, in my opinion, an excellent job of being really faithful to the story, the series, and the characters, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about it. However, it doesn't just follow the story point for point. Due to the strategy nature of the game, it actually puts the decisions in your hands. It essentially puts us in the shoes, or more accurately, the chair, of Captain Janeway and asks the question, what would you have done? So that means we can actually make decisions that Janeway didn't, and then see how the outcome of those decisions play out. Now, there is a mechanic in this game that involves a lot of randomness, and the game can be particularly brutal in that randomness. So even if we did make decisions that Janeway made in the series, we may not get the same outcome. These outcomes can include the death of any member of your crew, including the core characters from the series. So your decisions really do matter, and they really do actually shape the story that is ultimately going to be told. So what are the aims of this playthrough? Well, overall the aim is to complete it on the Years of Hell difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty setting in the game and is also named after a 2-episode arc from Season 4. Along the way, we are going to be making a number of decisions which are going to be linked to a number of achievements that we can get. Now, a lot of these achievements are actually going to be mutually exclusive because they depend on what path you choose to go down. Ultimately, we're just going to see where this game is going to take us and whether or not I can actually make it to the end. Speaking of achievements, there are none that I am particularly aiming for specifically. There isn't actually any difficulty-related achievements in the game, so we will pick up whatever achievements we do along our story. Also, this is not the first attempt at recording this, hence so a couple of achievements have in fact already popped, and there is progress on others. So the full disclosure, there is a little bit of a cheese move exploit that you can take advantage of in order to really give yourself a great foundation on which to build on. However, having slept on it and reflected on it, I decided that actually that wasn't really right for this kind of playthrough, so hence why I'm now re-recording it. When we get to the point of where that cheese move can be done, I will point it out and probably explain it in excruciatingly over-the-top detail. Also, if there are some very specific requirements for any of the achievements that I have in fact already unlocked, I will be repeating them in this playthrough. And just one final thing before we get going. Whilst there is some voice work done by Robert Duncan McNeil and Tim Russ, reprising their roles as Paris and Tuvok respectively, the rest of the dialogue is completely text-based, so there's going to be me doing a lot of voices, and I'm sure that's not going to go wrong or be hilarious in any way. I think that's covered everything. If you've got any other questions, please comment below and I'll answer them in the next video. Alright, let's get this underway. We want Years of Hell. As it says here, it is the ultimate stress test. Resources are scarce, combat is deadly, dialogue and away missions are more challenging, and homesickness is a major problem. All these things that you balance in a good survival strategy game. You are the captain of the Federation starship USS Voyager. Manage your ship and crew, plot a course through procedurally generated star systems. Your unique ship build and the decisions you make will reshape the story.
So, a few days back, this Captain Janeway breezes into my cozy penal colony like she owns the place. She's stern and smells like coffee and regulations. And the kicker? She's served with my old man on the Albatani. Turns out her security chief, Tuvok, was playing spy on a Maquis ship that vanished in the Badlands. Now Janeway needs that missing ship found, and because of my past associations, I'm apparently the resident expert on the Badlands. I find the missing Maquis, she puts in a good word for me at my next parole review. Simple. Still, the view is infinitely better than a holding cell. It's not every day you get a front row seat on a brand new Intrepid-class starship's maiden voyage. The USS Voyager. Might even get to touch the helm.
Gentlemen, welcome to Voyager. Ensign Kim, you're fresh from the academy. Ready for your first deep space assignment? Reporting for duty, Captain. It's an honor to be here. I hope I live up to your expectations. Ensign Kim, I trust you've already met Tom Paris, our esteemed observer. Former Maquis pilot who will help us search the Badlands for the Maquis vessel. With all due respect, ma'am, observer is hardly a title befitting my talents. I'm the best damn pilot in this sector. Call me pilot extraordinaire, Ensign. The Maquis. Wow, I heard a lot of stories about them. Relax. I was with the Maquis only for a few weeks before I was captured and sent to a lovely little penal colony in New Zealand. Penal colony? Enough chatter, gentlemen. All hands, this is the captain. Report to your stations. Helm, take us into the Badlands. Maximum warp. So as you saw there, apart from the lovely voiceover by Robert Duncan McNeil there, everything was text-based, so hopefully my voice work has not put you off already. Okay, into the Badlands we go. The Badlands, a treacherous region of space where violent plasma storms can cripple even the most advanced starships. Captain Janeway observes the swirling chaos from the view screen, a subtle smile playing on her lips. She's ready for the challenge. Scanners are picking up no other vessels in the system, Captain. It's your time to shine, Mr. Paris. Any idea where your former colleagues might be hiding? I wasn't exactly Maquis of the Year, Captain, but they did prefer underground bases, remote planets, and... Captain, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm reading a coherent tetrion beam scanning us, and a displacement wave heading toward us. A colossal wave of turbulent energy surges towards Voyager, its power dwarfing anything the crew has ever seen. With no time to analyze the threat, emergency measures are initiated. Red alert! Helm, evasive maneuvers. Brace for impact. Iconic scene from the series there. As the crew regains consciousness, they find their bridge in total devastation. Twisted metal, sparking consoles, and injured crewmates paint a grim picture. What just happened? Damage report. Major hull and deck damage, transporters are offline, and we're receiving casualty reports. Bridge to sickbay. Doctor, I've got injured crew on the bridge. Doctor? Damn. Captain, we're losing life support systems across multiple decks. Deuterium tanks are empty. Warp core's gone to grey mode. We're on reserves. Barely. Mr. Paris, take the helm. Scan for the nearest source of deuterium. External sensors are offline. Stellar cartography must be down. Voyager's blind, Captain. Janeway to engineering. We need stellar cartography back online. Now. Okay, and like any good game, we're into the tutorial. So this first one is just telling us how we can bring up the help menu. We can just simply click D-pad left twice, but that's not the interesting bit. This is the interesting bit. We need to activate our stellar cartography, which is located in the lower left part of the ship. As it says to activate it, we need to open up its menu by selecting the room and switching on the power supply. Now, there is in fact another way that we can do this, a quick way, as you probably have seen. In the bottom right, we can simply press X to toggle the power. Now, for this first episode, I will probably go through and do it the way the tutorial states. However, future instances of me needing to do this, I am probably just going to use the shortcut. Captain, sensors are picking up something out there, but what Harry is trying to stammer is we're not in the Badlands anymore. What is that thing? Where are we? If our sensors are working, we just jumped over 70,000 light years into the Delta Quadrant. The Delta Quadrant? How? Captain, life support systems are failing. This array will have to wait. Mr. Paris, take the helm. Find us a deuterium source. Okay, more tutorial action. We need to scan our points of interest, which are marked with the white question marks. To reveal our resources, we need to scan until we reveal some deuterium, which is going to be our fuel resource. So let's just hover over this Class J planet here. Let's grab the deuterium then. And now it brings up on how we actually navigate the system. We navigate our ship by traveling to various locations. And whilst we are traveling, time is going to pass in the form of cycles. Cycles is going to be one of those big things that we are going to have to keep an eye on, because it's going. The more time you spend somewhere, the more upset your crew's going to get. A little bit of a spoiler alert, because that's part of the game. So when we're traveling, time's going to pass in the form of cycles. We're going to need to keep an eye on those cycles, because that's going to govern everything from repairs to how long it takes to travel anywhere. And as other factors come into play, the number of cycles we're spending could start getting to be a problem. And it's just that when visiting points of interest, we can choose between our different outcomes with different risks. Different colours on our chance bar will represent the possible outcomes. Dark green, light green are excellent, good outcomes. High rewards such as extra resources, morale increase, good things we want. Yellow will give us some average outcomes, so it'll give us average returns, but also it can include some minor setbacks. Orange and red, bad, terrible, low rewards, medium to major setbacks, destroyed rooms, hull damage, severe injuries, things we absolutely want to avoid if we're going to have any chance of this playthrough surviving. So we're going to send Voyager over to our Class J planet. And here we go. Here are our two options that we can do. We can either deploy collector probes for a safer though less efficient collection. That will give us a maximum of 367 deuterium. As you can see from our bar, there's a little bit of yellow, so there's a little bit of a risk. However, we can fly Voyager directly into the atmosphere. Now, this will give us a maximum of 525 deuterium. However, there is a bigger risk of something happening and us being penalized, as that orange bar is A, orange and not yellow, and B, is significantly bigger. Now, on this difficulty, the game very much leans towards you incurring penalties for things. But also, since we've just been thrown 70,000 light years across the galaxy, we're not in the greatest shape anyway. Let's not risk Voyager. Let's just use our probes. Get less deuterium, but it's safer. There we go. See our bars. It's doing its calculations in the background. It's given us a good mission outcome, which means we have got our 367 deuterium, which, if you see in the top left corner where we have our current objective, that is obviously more than the 250 that we need. Captain, we can now deactivate grey mode. Captain, ready to increase warp core output. Okay, now the game is introducing us to the warp core, the staple of any starship. As it says, it's the reactor that powers the ship. To generate energy, it will continuously use deuterium, so we've got to continuously keep it fed. Depending on the reactor level, you will produce more energy, but we need to give it more deuterium. We need to increase the power output by selecting main engineering and switching the warp core to a higher tier. So you see, when we select main engineering, it brings up our warp core, which is currently in grey mode. And the game wants us to go up to tier 1. However, as you can see at the moment, grey mode generates 60 units of energy at the cost of no deuterium. Keep that in mind. It's going to play a very important part, not only in how we manage our resources, but aforementioned cheese move. When we put it up to tier 1, as you can see, we're essentially going to double our output to 120 units of power. However, it is going to cost us 24 deuterium per cycle. This is where these cycles start coming in. So, to proceed with the game, let us activate tier 1. Our energy levels are returning to normal, Captain. Good. Now, what about this thing, this array? I can't tell, Captain, but our scanners detected a Maquis vessel next to it. And now we get our first conversation dialogue choice, really. So we can go straight in, scan for life signs on the Maquis vessel, or we could be proper Starfleet officers and be a little bit courteous and try hailing them. Hail them. No response, Captain. Okay, that didn't work, so evidently there's nobody home. So let's see if we can actually check out the ship and see if anybody is aboard and we're just being ignored, or whether we're actually dealing with an empty vessel. Scan the ship for life signs, Ensign. There's no one on board, Captain. Okay, one thing I didn't point out previously, but now I have a chance here, is our chance of success. So as you can see now, our next objective is to scan the array, which we will use our sensor array, which is currently at level 1. Now, our sensor array alone will give us a 30% chance of this succeeding. However, because it is at level 1, we have an additional 35% chance, giving us a total of 65% that when we try to scan the array, we are actually going to get something back. But what else can we do? We're far from home. We need to get our bearings. What about the array? Okay, and we've got some success there with a little bar popping up telling us that we have detected several life forms, as Mr. Kim has just informed us of. Several life forms on board, Captain. Is one of them Vulcan? I'm not sure, Captain. Signals are weak. We'll just have to see for ourselves. I want the transporter room repaired and ready. Mr. Paris, get us to a duranium deposit. We'll need it to repair the transporter room. Okay, now it's bringing us up the tutorial for basic resources. We need to keep track of our resources in our main HUD. Figure 1, as you see, is our deuterium. That is our fuel that's going to power the warp drive. We ran out of that. We're back into grey mode. Section 2 is our duranium and our tritanium. That is essential for construction and repair. And option 3 is our crew. Our crew is needed to operate the systems and the rooms. So, again, 3 aspects that we have to manage, we have to balance. It's what it's like being a captain, really. Okay, so we're going to carry on and do our scanning here. So there's a shipwreck. That has deuterium. And there we go. There's our duranium on our Class D planet. Now, before I go and get that, I want to go back into our main engineering. If you look in the top center, you will see a big grey circle with 15 in the middle. That means with the current amount of deuterium, our deuterium reserves will last for 15 cycles at warp core level 1. However, to the right of it, you will see two figures, one above the other. We are currently producing 120 units of power. However, we're only currently using 15 units of power. So we have a lot to spare. Now, if you remember, grey mode produces 60 on its own, but doesn't actually cost us any deuterium. So, as you've probably already figured out, we are going to go back into grey mode. And this has brought up the tutorial for it. It says we are completely out of deuterium. That is not strictly accurate, but that's normally when you go into grey mode. Without it, warp core shut down, emergency power only is available. While traveling in grey mode, you won't use any deuterium, but most rooms will be deactivated to conserve energy. Now, later on in the game, that obviously can be a problem, but at the moment, we don't really have much on the go. So, spending deuterium for 15 units of power when we can get it for free seems like a no-brainer. Now, this is the kind of management that this game forces you to do, to really think about, do I actually need all these rooms online? Do I actually need my warp core in this higher level of tier? So yeah, you begin to see, and good tutorials are doing this, how everything is slowly beginning to fit together, and we haven't even got to all of what this game's going to throw at us yet. So now that we are back in grey mode and we're not using any deuterium, we're going to go and grab a little bit here. Not our deuterium, our duranium. Whoops. Okay, and again, chance bar has come up. We can either collect any easily accessible resources for a maximum of 27 duranium. Now, as you can see, that bar is solid light green, which means we are guaranteed to get 27 duranium. However, we could use the tractor beam, try and clump up the debris. This will give us a maximum of 42 duranium. However, we've only got a 50-50 chance, really, of getting that. And if we flip into that side where that yellow is, we've got a chance of experiencing some setbacks here, which we don't really want, especially this early. So we're going to take the lesser of the two, but it's the safer for the two, which I think just needs to be our plan for the moment. We now have all the duranium we need. Engineering is standing by to repair the transporter, Captain. Okay, now it's taking us into how to repair some rooms here. Damaged rooms are not operational, obviously. So just need to select a room and bring up the room controls. As long as we have the resources and the work teams that we need, we can in fact initiate repairs. Now, again, as you can see in the bottom right, we have a shortcut with the X. We can just press and hold X. Also, we can select it and then select repair. And it's got a little bit of description about our transporter room. It's the ship's primary hub for beaming personnel and cargo to and from planetary services and other vessels. It also makes away missions possible. What is a Star Trek episode without an away mission? So we're going to repair it, and now it is automatically ready to go for us. This is just for the purposes of the tutorial. Any subsequent attempts to repair any of the other rooms will come with a cycle cost. Transporters are back online, Captain. Mr. Paris, set a course for the array. It's time we got some answers. Okay, looks like the captain wants us to go to the array. But before we do that, this is the part where I talked about where you could take advantage and exploit a little bit of the game's mechanics. As you see, and as I've already gone into, we are in grey mode, so we are not using any deuterium at this precise moment in time. So if you wanted to, you could now go into your ship and we could actually activate life support and bring Deck 5 online. Once that's done, we can then repair our science laboratory. Our science laboratory is what allows us to do our research, but it also passively generates science points, which is denoted in sort of the middle left with the green science glass and magnifying that says 150 on it. You could bring that online, and then you could literally just fly around this system continuously and just build up a ton of science points. There is no downside to that in terms of the game. Morale at the moment is not an issue. We're not using any resources because we're in grey mode. So you could do this indefinitely until you have enough resource points to unlock every single research item within the laboratory. Now, I did do this a little bit. I did these stages and built up a little bit and got some of the research sort of done. Yes, you can take it to the nth degree. However, as for this playthrough, I'm not doing that. The reason I'm going into it is A, it's an option, and B, it's an option in one playthrough I did. But I'm not doing it for this one, but it is there. That's how you would do it. I don't really think I need to say too much more on this. Also, the game is actually going to take us through this anyway. So if you know what's coming, you get a little bit ahead of yourself there. But anyway, let's get back to the system, and we need to go to the array. But before we do that, I'm actually going to quickly run down to this shipwreck. And we're going to scan this abandoned vessel and see if we can get some more deuterium. Okay, only got 45%, 275. That's better than nothing. But again, as I said, at the moment, we're not actually using any deuterium, so it's just topping up our stores. So let's head to the array. Ensign Kim and Mr. Paris, get ready for your first away mission. Here we go, and it's a tutorial on the transporter room, which is also giving us a little tutorial on away teams. As it says, away missions present a series of challenges. Heroes will possess skills and traits, and we need to select heroes with the matching skills for the away team. Now, for this particular one, we only have 2 slots because we only have 2 people that we can actually assign to this away mission. And the first one is going to be Tom Paris, who's also got a pilot trait, and we'll send Ensign Kim, who's also got a quick-witted trait. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side towards the middle, these are symbols for the various challenges that we are going to be presented with at various stages during this away mission. As you can see, we currently have them all covered, which is great. So we can now start our away mission, and let's get investigating this array that has brought us across the galaxy, because it's got some questions to answer. So we need to decide on our approach, and we need to select a hero to complete the challenge with the appropriate skill. If the skill is lower than the requirement, then the success chance will be displayed. Captain, we seem to have materialized in the middle of a cornfield. This place, it's eerily similar to Earth, but something's off. Any suggestions on what to do next? Okay, so we've got 2 options here. We can look for any footprints or strange noises, or we can scan our life signs or strange energy signatures. As you can see, Tom and Harry have different skills, so we will use a different person depending on which option we go for. But like true Starfleet, we're going to whip out our tricorders, see if we can find anything. As you can see, now that I have selected it, we have our chance bar at the top. We have a very good chance, but it's not guaranteed, though there is no risk of injury. Not at the moment, anyway. Harry and Tom use their tricorders to scan for life signs and detect a strange energy spike emanating from a nearby area. Following the readings, they navigate through the corn and find a farm with people working the fields. An old man sits on the porch of a nearby farmhouse strumming a banjo. That succeeded. However, after a challenge, participating team members will be fatigued and their skill values will be reduced. So it says you need to let them rest for the next challenge, recover, and plan ahead accordingly. Captain, this old man seems harmless enough. You might know what's going on here. How should we approach him? So just before we go into the next bit, as you can see on the right, Harry Kim's stats have gone from 25-29 down to 18 and 21. And as if that wasn't clear enough, there's a big fatigue sign above his head. Now, we have 3 options here now, each with a different skill type. We could use Tom to demand what's going on. We could try and read his body language for any clues. Or we could use Harry again and just argue with the fact that this can't be a farm on Earth and we want to demand what's going on. However, you will see there is now an extra column called rewards. Now, depending on whether we succeed, will depend on whether we get this reward. Now, there is a chance that we could get a critical. Game is going to point that out to us very, very shortly, but I'm just going to point it out here. So what we're going to do, we're going to give us the one that gives us the greatest chance, which is try and read the body language. And this also allows Harry to rest. Harry and Tom discreetly observe the old man, trying to analyze his body language. Something feels off, like he's putting on an act, but they can't quite put their finger on why. The old man seems perplexed by their presence, muttering about Harry and Tom being early and how it is not their turn yet. He invites them to stay on the farm and wait, offering them some fresh corn cobs. Okay, and here we go. This is just going into what I briefly described a moment ago. We can select more than one hero for a challenge if they both possess, or all 3 of them in some cases, possess the required skill. If the accumulated skill value is equal or higher to the required number, we'll have a chance to get that critical success. And that critical will give us some extra little bonus on our rewards. The old man isn't much help. We'll try and find the Maquis ourselves. There's a large barn behind the farmhouse. Tricorder readings are off the charts. Definitely something strange about it, especially that back wall. Okay, so as you can see again, we've got 3 choices, 3 different skills, but we'll go straight down to the bottom one first. As it says here, if you try to find a way to break the illusion of the wall, that will give us 150 deuterium if we succeed. As you see, it needs a skill level of 33, and combined we have 35, so that's nice. We could try and get some more science points if we want to analyze what these readings could actually be with Mr. Kim, or we could just investigate the barn for a hidden door with Tom. However, even though Tom is currently fatigued, we are going to take advantage of critical chance here, and also deuterium is always a good thing. Harry and Tom try to disrupt the energy field, causing a flicker in the air. But before they can break the illusion, the people from the field burst in, wielding farm tools as weapons. The old man appears and reveals the barn is an illusion, the back wall dissolving to show a bluish glowing room, where unconscious people, including a tattooed man and a half-Klingon woman, lie on surgical tables. So as you can see, we've now got 225 deuterium, which is good, but I'm also going to add a caveat. We don't want to get too much, and I'll explain why later on. So, consequences, here we go. Sometimes you have to make major decisions that influence how the story proceeds. These decisions are marked with a golden outline. These people must be the missing Maquis. They are being held here, Captain. We must get them out of here. Okay, so as you can see, both our guys are fatigued here. So we could wake up the tattooed man as Tom Paris, or we could try and wake up the half-Klingon woman as Harry Kim. Now, Harry has a guaranteed success. Tom, not so much. However, I am going to go with Tom, and I will explain why in a moment. Tom rushes towards the tattooed man, hoping to shake him awake. As he reaches out, the old man stops him, a look of concern on his face. Before Tom can react, a blinding white light fills the room, and everything goes blank. But we get 20 uranium for our efforts, so. And here's our lovely overview with all our rewards and the XP that we have accumulated and the breakdown of it. So 3 successful challenges, 1 critical success. We're doing it injury free, and also because we are in the first sector, giving us a total of 325. Now, as it's just popped up there, it says Harry Kim is unavailable. Now, the reason I went with Tom is because if I had actually done that with Harry, it would now actually be Tom Paris that would be unavailable. And if you've seen the series, you know that's not how it happened, and I'm trying to keep this as canon as possible, though I will end up breaking that along the way because of achievement purposes. Anyway, Captain Janeway actually awaits the return of her away team when Tom Paris unexpectedly materializes behind her. What happened on the array? Captain? What happened over there, Mr. Paris? We lost contact with you for several hours. What? But we were there for only an hour, right, Harry? Harry? He was just beside me. Then he's still on the array. But why were you released and not... The Maquis are hailing us, Captain. Putting them on screen. I'm Commander Chakotay of the Maquis. My chief engineer, Belana Torres, is missing. Is she with you? No, Commander. One of our own is also missing. It seems we share a problem, and it would make sense if we solved it together. 3 of us will beam over to your ship. Despite Janeway's invitation, the arrival of Chakotay and his Maquis crew on the bridge is fraught with tension. Both sides remain wary as they prepare to discuss their shared predicament. Captain, this is Tuvok, my... Oh, I know who he is. I'm glad to have you back, Tuvok. As am I, Captain. Commander Chakotay, I must inform you that I was assigned to infiltrate your crew. Were you going to deliver us into Starfleet's waiting hands, Vulcan? Correct. However, I assure you I performed my duties aboard your ship to the highest standards. Charming. And I see you have Paris with you too. Are you forming a Maquis Traitors Club, Captain? You win some, you lose some, Commander. Let's focus on bringing Torres and Kim back from the array. We can't get back inside. They've sealed the entrances and are blocking incoming hails. Lieutenant Tuvok, get down to engineering and find a way to bypass whatever's jamming our communications. Report back as soon as you have a solution. Captain, the ship's status remains critical. Repair protocols are imperative. We require resources and the engineering office to mobilize additional workforces. Prioritize life support, secure core decks, and restore Deck 5 functionality first to gain access to the engineering office. Okay, tutorial time again. We need to be able to supply power to a room. We need to actually activate the life support unit of that corresponding deck. Each life support unit will consume energy, so we do need to plan accordingly. So once again, we can either just press X to toggle on the power, or we can select it and go to switch on. Life support restored on Deck 5, Captain. Engineering office is now accessible. And of course it's a mess. I'll have to fix it before we can even use it. Okay, so much like before with our transporter room, we can select it and click repair, but I'm just going to press and hold X. This repair will cost us 8 uranium. Repairs in progress. Until completion, it would be logical to scan all planets in the system and gather more deuterium and duranium. Okay, and Tuvok is being logical as always. We need to scan all the planets and see if we can find deuterium and uranium. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So there's a bit of uranium and deuterium from a Talaxian Baxil freighter. Nice. And another one. Deuterium, that's going to give us uranium. That's going to give us uranium. And that's giving us deuterium. Now, as the game stated towards the beginning, these are actually all procedurally generated. So if we were to do a completely brand new playthrough, the planets and the amount and type of resources that it's giving us would actually be different. And it's, as I said, this is my second one, and it is very different to what I got before. In fact, I think I only got 2 planets in total that gave me duranium. So what we're going to do is we are going to fly around and collect some of these, since at the moment we can't just skip time and skip cycles. So again, it's only giving us one option because we don't actually have the option to destroy the vessel and salvage the debris because we don't have our torpedo launch bay up and running. So let's just grab what we can. Lovely, there's 40 uranium. Okay, now I can show you, we're going to move over to here for the deuterium, and I want to go through something. But the game is going to interrupt me first off, and it's going to tell me that life support is active and our engineering office is repaired. So it's now going to provide an extra work team in order to be able to perform repairs, construction, and hull repairs on Voyager. Hull integrity is a little bit important. Now, it says here we can close report to automatically finish all of the actions, activate all available rooms, and collect all the resources. Or we can enter the ship to do this manually. For some reason, I just like to do this manually. So that's what I'm going to do. So it brings you in here, and then we can hit A again. Engineering office fully operational again, Captain. We now have an additional work team to carry out 2 tasks simultaneously. And here we go. Our engineering office, building or repairing rooms, even clearing debris, will occupy work teams. To be able to carry out several tasks at the same time, we need to obtain additional teams by building or upgrading our engineering offices. Logically, we should now focus on Deck 2 and the mess hall to ensure the crew's food supply, maintaining their physical endurance. This requires reactivating life support in that section first. And now the game brings in morale. Morale bar shows the current morale, changes to morale per cycle, and icons indicating crew needs. We can open up the overview screen and switch to morale to get the detailed information about the crew's needs, which we will do in a moment. Your decisions in ship management, food, crew, quarters, and events affect crew morale. If morale falls to 0, the crew mutinies. Game over. And there we go. So we are going to be losing 80 morale per cycle. We have 50 quarterless crew members. We have 50 crew members who are on emergency rations. So we need to get that sorted as quickly as we can. So to do that, let's bring life support on Deck 2 online. Life support restored on Deck 2, Captain. Access to the mess hall is now possible. However, it has sustained extensive damage. Emergency rations are currently deployed. After repair, the crew can access replicator rations again. Repairs in progress. Now, as Tuvok said, repairs are in progress, and as you can see and has saw with the engineering office, we now have come up with the cycles. So it's now going to take 3 cycles for us to repair our mess hall. Until completion, we should address crew accommodation. The ruined room must be cleared to create room for residential sections. Okay, next up is clearing debris. Ship is heavily damaged and many parts are actually destroyed beyond repair. So to free up some new building space, we will first have to remove the remnants of the old. We select the room, give the order to clear. Again, removing debris takes time in the form of cycles. And at the moment, the only way we can actually pass the time is to travel around the map. While waiting for our work teams to finish, we should continue to collect more resources. Come on to that in a moment. I actually got a little bit trigger happy there and pressed it a bit quick. You would have seen very briefly in the bottom right corner, once we have cleared that room, it will in fact give us 16 duranium for doing so. Now we'll come to the part that I really wanted to talk about, which is the need to balance resources, not just in your usage, but in how much you actually collect. We'll use this as an example. I'm only going to do this once because this actually wastes resources, but I just want to show it you, and doing it right at the beginning of the game is as good a time as any. So, as you can see, it says we can leave the storage alone and focus on salvaging parts, and we will get a maximum of 409 deuterium. However, if you look in the top next to the grey circle to the left, we currently have 867 deuterium. Currently, we can only hold 1,000, so we only have room for 133. I'm going to show you what the game does if you try and collect more than what you actually have room for. Okay, so as you can see, we've got 492, however, we lost 276 due to full storage. That is not a wording technicality, that is actually now lost. It doesn't store it, it doesn't save it on the planet for us to go back to it later. If you try to collect more than you have room for, you lose the excess, that's it, it's gone. So you need to be really mindful about how much you've got, how much you're going to get when you're doing scanning. Is it worth losing any? Again, this game actually, thinking about it now that I'm sort of recording this commentary, this game throws a hell of a lot at you. But I just wanted to show you that, because that is again another important factor that we're going to need to take into account. Also, that just doesn't happen for deuterium. That's going to happen for all your resources, including any that you accumulate from clearing rooms. And in terms of the way the game works, if you are repairing a room or you're building a room, it will take the resources it needs on the first cycle. If you are clearing a room, it won't give them to you until that is complete. It does sound obvious, but again, there's things you've got to keep in mind, because to collect some more resources, you might actually have to clear some space first in order to be able to not lose any of those resources that you could collect. So now at the moment, and also, as you see, we are currently just flying around with a full deuterium tank, and we're not actually using any right now. Why waste it when we're not actually using that much energy? However, that might be about to change, as our mess hall is now repaired. We can provide crew with a place where they can gather for meals, relax from their duty stations. So again, we're going to go into the ships and we're going to manually enable it. Mess hall repairs are completed, Captain. We should switch to replicator rations now. It would enhance crew well-being. Okay, replicator food. With every cycle, your crew will consume rations. You can always use emergency rations, which don't require resources, but they also lower morale. The crew are accustomed to premium rations made by the replicator. These will increase morale, but will also consume deuterium. So the game won't actually let you progress until you switch to replicator rations. Now, as you can see, just at the top we have our morale bar. It currently says we are losing 80 morale per cycle. As soon as we change that to premium replicator rations, it's going to give us plus 10. Replicator rations are now issued to the crew, Captain. And now, as you can see, we are now down to minus 30. So we are still losing morale, but not as fast as what we originally were. We are clearing out that room, and we also need to try and get more rooms cleared out so that we can get our crew housed. However, I'm not quite going to do that. I am, in fact, going to do something that the game is going to get you to do, but I'm going to do it now. And that is, I'm now going to repair my science laboratory. this is actually quite a key room that we want to get up running fairly quickly. Now, as I've gone into probably in a bit too much detail earlier, we could have done this way back, about like cycle 5. But I'm going to get ahead of the game a little bit here now, now that we've gone through a lot of the tutorial stuff. But as I said, we could have done this a bit further, a bit sooner. So, as you can see in our top right, we currently have no work crews left, so let's carry on flying around the system. Okay, Ruined Room is dismantled. Ruined Room removal concluded. Great! Maybe we can finally rebuild some crew quarters? My back is killing me from sleeping on the corridor. Do wonders for morale, that's for sure. Okay, now we're going to look actually building a room. It says to build new rooms, select the empty space to bring up the construction menu. We have enough work teams, enough resources. We can then build the room. Every room needs a corresponding area, so plan accordingly. Now, what that means is if we go into here, go into our crew, and we go into our emergency quarters. Now, the bottom row, it says, is room size. It will take up 2 blocks. And fortunately, we have just excavated 2 blocks, so we can now go into building. And as it says here, the crew is the lifeblood of the ship. Each room requires personnel to operate, so keep that in mind when adding new rooms or upgrades. Don't forget to provide the necessary accommodation or morale may drop faster than you'd like. So we're currently building, and it looks like Lieutenant Tuvok has something for us. Captain, the array's jamming signal has been neutralized. We should be able to establish communication. Let's hope they respond. Hail the array. Who's this? Why are you bothering me? Oh, it's you. Why are you back? You don't have what I need. I remember that voice, Captain. The old guy with the banjo. Though he seemed a lot less jellyfishy back on the array. I'm Captain Janeway of the Federation starship Voyager. We mean you no harm, we just want our people back. Your people? Your people are no longer here. They might have what I need. You'll just have to leave them. Okay, so we've got some options here. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to scan the array for Harry and B'Elanna. Are we really going to trust the word of the guy who has, for all intensive purposes, kidnapped them? I won't rely on the words of a stranger. Scan the array for life signs of Harry and Torres. No sign of them, Captain, and no humanoid life forms indicated at all. Who or what are we talking to right now? Okay, so we now got some 3 options here. We can appeal to his humanity for a 60% chance of succeeding. We can try to intimidate him for, again, 60% chance. Or we can actually let Chakotay talk. Now, this one we're not going to go for. We are the captain of our ship. We will do the talking, not some Federation, essentially Federation traitor. Not sure we want to intimidate him. You know, he did just bring us 70,000 light years across the galaxy. Kind of indicates he's very powerful and with a lot of very advanced technology. So let's appeal to his humanity. See if we can persuade him to tell us what he's done with our crew. We are entrusted with their safety. Their families and friends rely on us to bring them home. They are our responsibility. I understand, but I had no choice. There just isn't enough time. Time for what? I must honor a debt that can never be repaid. Find something that cannot be found. Okay, we're going to inquire as to what kind of debt is he talking about here. What kind of debt? Maybe we can help. Weren't you listening? It can't be repaid. All I can do is protect them. No, you're stealing my time. Don't you understand? I don't have time. Not enough time. We've been cut off, Captain. Damn it. We haven't gotten any closer to Harry and Torres. You managed to get him to open up a bit. Maybe Starfleet diplomacy isn't so bad after all. Captain, if I may. I have observed that the array has been sending energy pulses towards the 5th planet of the neighbouring system ever since our arrival. Given the lack of information regarding our missing crew's location, investigating this planet appears to be the most logical next step. It's the only lead we have. Thoughts, Commander? It seems our paths are intertwined, Captain. Let's use this opportunity to find our people and bring them back. Agreed. Mr. Paris, take the helm again. Let's find our people. Set a course for the 5th planet in the neighbouring system. Maximum warp. And it's actually now just brought up a tutorial regarding the sector map. It says sector map shows the entire sector with several star systems. You can either travel directly to another system, or you can scan the system first and select a specific point of interest to visit. Now, doing that latter may actually save you a couple of cycles. There's that word again. And say, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that cycle counter for quite some time. So as you can see, here's our construction report for our science laboratory. It allows for analysis of found objects, enables research of technologies, and produces 1 science point per cycle. Each additional science laboratory increases the research speed. Now, as I said, I have got slightly ahead of the game in by doing this now, because it will start generating science points for us. But there is actually also another reason I got this up and running now, and it is in fact linked to that 5th planet over in the next system. So now we've got it up and running, we are in fact going to kick off some research right now. As you can see, each research requires not only cycles but science points, which is why we are accumulating them. We have 5 tabs here. We have engineering, crew, science, combat, and Borg. Spoiler alert, there might be Borg. So as you see, each option within each tier comes with its own cost, as does actually unlocking a tier. In this particular case, just for example, engineering tier 2 needs 70 resource points and 5 dilithium crystals. As you can see, that cost goes up and even brings in tritanium for further on down. So the first thing I actually want to research is this: field training. Increases our XP gain for heroes in away missions by 10%. I really want to get our heroes leveling up fairly quickly, and doing so by an extra 10% is certainly going to help with that. So we're going to begin our research. And we are in fact going to call it there. Thank you very much everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the first little intro into this game, and hopefully my voice work wasn't too cringeworthy, and you are actually, I'm looking forward to the second part of this. I am not going to be doing anything further with this game off video, so this is exactly where we will pick up from next time. So thank you very much everybody. If you liked this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, do all the normal things that the YouTube algorithm likes, and tell your friends and your crew that Grace is doing a Voyager playthrough, and he's doing funny noises as well. Alright, thank you very much guys. I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much, and bye bye.